I'm so excited to bring you the podcast this week. This week, I'm joined by a good friend of mine, Dr. Trevor Cates. She is a naturopathic physician and a skincare expert. And on this podcast, we're going to talk all about ways that you can improve your skin from the perspective of a naturopathic doctor. So once again, on this podcast, I'm joined by my good friend, Dr. Trevor Cates. Let me just read her bio to you. She is the author of the best-selling books, Natural Beauty Reset and Clean Skin from Within. And she is the founder of the Spa Doctor Natural Skincare and Supplement line. She was the first woman licensed as a naturopathic doctor in the state of California. For 24 years, she has been helping women from around the world overcome challenges with their skin and hormones and feel at home in their bodies. She has been interviewed on various TV shows, including The Doctors, PBS, and Extra TV. Dr. Cates has interviewed hundreds of women's health experts for her Hormones, Health, and Harmony 10-part docuseries and the Spa Doctor podcast. So she has spent over 20 years of her career focused on helping her patients and her followers improve their skin from the perspective of a naturopathic physician. So on this podcast, we're going to talk first of all about what a naturopathic physician is, what's the difference between a naturopathic doctor and a traditional MD or DO, and how they look at illness and health in the bodies. We'll talk about what foods she recommends to eat, maybe foods to avoid. We talk about supplements, and we talk a lot about skincare. So I think you're going to really enjoy this information-filled podcast. Let's get started with my interview with Dr. Trevor Cates. Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, it's great to be here with you.
All right, so I'd love to start by getting your story. You are a naturopathic physician, and I think we have to assume that a lot of the population, they know what doctors are, but many of them may not know what a naturopathic doctor is. So let's start by getting your story. Why did you decide to go into naturopathic medicine, and what exactly is naturopathic medicine?
Yeah, thank you. I have been telling this story for a very long time because I've been a naturopathic physician for almost 25 years now. And so what got me into this, though, is as a child, I was really sick all the time. And I was allergic to everything, very reactive. My skin reacted to everything. It was always itchy, mysterious bumps appearing on my skin. And I had recurring infections like tonsillitis and strep throat. And so I was like that kid that was always sick, missed school all the time. So my parents took me in to see a lot of different doctors, a lot of different specialists, and every medication I was put on, whether it was like an antibiotic, an antihistamine, whatever, I would either have an adverse reaction or an allergic reaction. So it was this hopeless case of going from one doctor to another and not getting any relief. And then eventually my parents found this holistic practitioner that they took me to. And I mean, the first thing I noticed is how long the person spent talking to me and the appointment. It wasn't like they just sort of rushed in and out like all the other doctors, but also really looking at a holistic approach. And it really is the one thing that turned my health around. And I remember at 11 years old thinking, why didn't the doctors mention this before? Like, why wasn't this presented to my family years ago? Why did it take this long? And so it sort of planted a seed in my head. And then later on, when I was in college, I learned about naturopathic medicine. And I thought, and I was actually planning on going to law school, but I was like, wow, this is fascinating because it's my path. And so it's what led me to go to naturopathic medical school. So naturopathic medicine is really that holistic approach. And what I love about it too is that it is a medical school with everything included in it. So we get the anatomy, physiology, pathology, pharmacology, all of that, but also get training in nutrition, a lot of nutrition hours, botanical medicine, environmental medicine, physical medicine, and really the approach in school is how do we get to the root cause? How can we support the body's innate ability to heal? Our bodies are actually really wise, and we're given the right tools, we can get our bodies back in balance. And so this approach really appealed to me because of my own health journey And then I could say over the last 25 years, it's just been truly remarkable seeing what's possible for my patients. And it was really interesting. Sorry, excuse me. It was really interesting with this path. I never thought I would focus on skin when I started. But when I was seeing patients at the Waldorf Astoria Spa in Park City, a lot of my patients were saying, Dr. Cates, I'm feeling better. I've lost weight. All these things are great. But what surprises me is my skin. I didn't know my skin could look this good. And because of my own journey, I was like, well, of course, skin is just an outer reflection of your overall health. And they would say, well, nobody's ever said that to me. Dermatologists have said, oh, let's give you this topical or let's do this thing to kind of suppress your symptoms. But nobody's ever reproached it that way. So that's why I decided to write my book, Clean Skin from Within, and really focus on this skin angle, because our skin is our magic mirror. It gives us great information about our overall health.
So can you tell us, as far as getting back to the naturopathic school, is that 4 years then that you went to after then 4 years of undergrad?
Yeah. So undergrad with all the pre-med, and then 4 years of naturopathic medical school. Yeah.
And then did you
And that
go into,
includes,
and you went into practice after that?
yes, I worked with actually a DO for a couple of years, and then went into my own, started my own practice.
Now, my understanding is that there are still certain states that don't allow naturopathic doctors to actually practice in them yet. You were the first naturopathic doctor licensed to practice in the state of California, which I have to assume, I mean, I have a medical license to practice in California, and that license was a pain in the rear end for me to get. And I am probably the, you know, 250,000th person to get that license. For you to be the first person to get a license in California for naturopathic medicine, how did that work out? And what type of hoops did you have to jump through to do that?
Right. Well, just to be clear, I was actually number 3. I was the first woman
first female.
to be
Okay.
first woman to be licensed as a naturopathic doctor in California. The two ahead of me were men, so I was the first woman. And the reason is the 3 of us that got the 3 first license. When I was in California, I was very active in lobbying efforts, because California wasn't a licensed state at the time, and I was fresh out of medical school, and so I went to California to kind of help with that. And so when the law went into effect, I was appointed by Schwarzenegger was governor at the time. And so I was appointed by him to the Naturopathic Advisory Council, along with the 2 others. So the 3 of us were the first 3 that got licenses. And so my understanding is he appointed me because of my specialty in environmental medicine, and he was very interested in that.
So now that you've been practicing for a couple of decades as a naturopathic doctor, why would somebody choose, let's say, a traditional physician over a naturopathic physician, or vice versa? I think we would have to assume that a lot of our listeners have either an internist or a family medicine doctor, but why would they also choose a naturopathic physician? And would that person take the place of their traditional family doctor or internist?
That's a really great question. And it really, naturopathic doctors are, when we're in medical school, we're trained to be primary care doctors. That's what we're trained to do. So we are trained to do physical exams, to do gyne exams, to do minor surgery, to do a lot of things. The reality is that a lot of naturopathic doctors don't do all of that. Right. So because a lot of naturopathic doctors don't bill insurance, partly because they want to spend lots of time with their patients. They don't want to be constrained by the insurance model, and also sometimes in some states insurance doesn't cover naturopathic medicine. So because of that, sometimes what people will do is they'll have their primary care doctor, their gynecologist for women, and then they'll see a naturopathic doctor to sort of help with more of the holistic approach and more optimizing health. So, I mean, with a conventional doctor, what I think of a conventionally trained MD, DO, they are really good at helping people stay alive in the moment, like that's their focus, is like, are you going to die today? And so that's really great. So if you need to go into the emergency room because you had an accident or something going on, they're really, really good for that. But when it comes to optimizing health, because of the medical model, unfortunately, that we have right now with health insurance and just the way that it's set up, conventional doctors just don't have time to spend really diving into what are the root causes, what can we do to really optimize and make sure that you're not only going to live today, but you're going to live for many years to come and you're going to enjoy the quality of your life. They just don't have the time for that. So that's when it's great to work with a naturopathic physician. Now, some naturopathic physicians will be your primary care doctor too. So it really depends. For me, because I do mostly virtual consults. I always have somebody have either a gynecologist or a GP so that they're getting their exams or doing all of that. And then I can help them with really more of the holistic approach. And naturopathic doctors are pretty much the same as functional medicine doctors in their approach. So somebody might be seeing an MD or DO that is a functional medicine doctor. It's pretty similar. But I would say that naturopathic doctors generally trained, at least initially trained functional medicine doctors. Like that's where functional medicine came from, was from naturopathic doctors helping create these programs to train functional medicine doctors. And with functional medicine doctors, generally they start off with conventional medical school and then they go, wait a minute, I think I want to do more holistic, integrative. So then they go back and they get more training. So it's different than naturopathic medicine, where we get all of it within the 4-year medical school. And a lot of our teachers are naturopathic physicians. So that the philosophy of, that integrative approach is instilled in the medical school.
I think it's you've really said it well, because it is true that our physicians today, especially our primary care doctors, they have to see so many patients every day for them just to actually keep their practice open. Especially if you're talking about physicians who are in small towns and they have their own private practice, and those types of doctors, family doctors who are, one-stop shop family docs where they own their own practice, and you just don't see a lot of them anymore because as inflation goes up, actually doctors' pay gradually has declined over the years. And so they have to see more and more patients for them to essentially keep their business open. And when you're seeing so many people, you're not going to be able to get into the details of their lifestyle that can have profound impacts on their health. They can't ask them necessarily. They don't have time to ask them about a lot of the environmental exposures and their diet and all of that. And if they do, they ask them and they have to check the boxes on the computer and go to the next thing so that they can get that certain code so they can bill for the insurance for it. It's really, unfortunately, a huge mess. And so, yeah, I totally agree. I think this is exactly where either an integrative physician, a naturopathic doc, a functional medicine doc can come in and, give you that time that you need to get your body healthy so that you don't have to see your other physician for acute illnesses and things like that as often. And maybe you can get off of some of those hypertension medications and the, SSRIs and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah, I think go ahead.
I was just going to say, since naturopathic physicians can prescribe medications in the states where we're licensed, that allows us we have understanding of the medications, so we can help manage that or maybe take someone off medications. Now, it depends on the state as far as what the prescriptive rights are. I'm in Utah and we have pretty broad prescriptive rights, but there are certain classes of medications that we can't prescribe, which is actually fine with me because I don't have people coming to me for pain medications. The other thing is, I think with conventional doctors is, of course, like you, like specialists. When we have doctors that do plastic surgery, obviously naturopathic doctors don't do plastic surgery. We don't do any kind of major surgery. We're only trained in minor surgery. So any kind of specialist, we certainly as naturopathic physicians will refer to specialists that if it's something that's beyond our scope, like oncologists, for example, we would work with an oncologist if someone is diagnosed with cancer.
And I think, I think in the traditional medicine field, they don't really know a lot about naturopaths. And I think, oh, they're kind of woo-woo people that are hanging out in amongst the trees, looking for various herbs and stuff. And that's actually not the case. I mean, some of the smartest doctors that I have met, friends of ours, Dr. Alan Christensen, I mean, the super smart guy, naturopathic doctor. Tina Moore, naturopathic doctor. We did an episode with her a couple months ago about microdosing with the GLP-1 agonist. And so, I think that hopefully our discussion has opened people's eyes to what naturopathic medicine is. It's not this kind of idea of, oh, this doctor that mixes up herbs to give to you. No, I mean, they do undergo a lot of scope of training. So shifting gears, you're known as the spa doctor. You have focused a lot of your career on helping your patients and your followers get healthy, beautiful skin. You and I are totally on the same wavelength. You've written this best-selling book, Clean Skin from Within. You have another book called, what was your second book? Oh, Natural Beauty Reset, which was great as well. And a lot of, the stuff that's in my book, Younger for Life, they intertwine with yours. And so I think we are definitely on the same wavelength. That being said, where, as a naturopathic doctor who has gone into skin health, where do you think that traditional medicine, specifically, dermatology and traditional skincare, where have they gone wrong that you felt the need to kind of step into that space? I mean, you are one of the country's most foremost naturopathic doctors taking care of skin.
Yeah, and it's funny, when I first started working on skin, really focusing on that when I was at the Waldorf Astoria Spa, I know a lot of my colleagues were like, "Why would you want to do skin?" And I actually, my literary agent was saying that some of the publishers that I gave my book to were like, well, but why would you write a book if you're not a dermatologist? Why would you write a book on skin? And I'm like, no, we need this naturopathic approach to skin because it is different. And like I said, it's part of what made me realize it is my own personal journey and how I was what worked well for me was more of this holistic approach. And then what I was seeing with my patients is when you get to the root cause of a skin issue, it can help not only your skin, but your overall health. And our skin oftentimes gives us early warning signs of something out of balance. And the conventional approach with dermatology is typically like, oh, you have skin eruptions, you have skin issues. What can we use topically or what can we do internally to just suppress that symptom? But if we're not really getting at things like inflammation, gut imbalances, then it's going to show up in your health in some other way. So what I was seeing in my practice is I would see people that would have eczema as a child and they were given topical steroids. And then they get a little bit older and they develop asthma and then they were given an inhaler and they never addressed their immune dysfunction, their immune system issues and the internal inflammation. And so later on, they would come see me with autoimmune disease. So it's like, if we don't address these root causes, it's just going to keep showing up in our health and it can get more and more serious. Now, skin issues alone can be debilitating. They can be very serious. I remember that as a child, like the inflammation, the itchiness, the discomfort, and also kids picking on me for the way my skin looked. And I know I've seen so many patients with acne that they're just so embarrassed by their skin, whether it's their face, their chest, or back. Like so many stories of people it changing their lives because they don't feel confident. They don't feel comfortable. Women with rosacea, with hyperpigmentation, premature aging, so many skin issues that are actually signs of imbalances in the body. But yet it's treated as like, oh, well, let's just cover this up. Let's just suppress this. But if we look at, no, the body's actually like screaming at you, like, pay attention. I've got something to tell you.
And I have dermatologists on the podcast all the time, and I think that they're in a difficult position because I mean dermatologists are seeing 40, 50 patients a day, and you don't have the time, you can't get into those root causes. Otherwise, you can't help as many patients as you would like. And so I 100% agree with you. Now, I think we both agree that the starting point when you're talking about healthy skin is your diet. That's really the foundation of healthy skin is making sure that you eat the right foods, maybe avoid certain types of foods. Can you give us some suggestions? And we're not going to spend, the podcast today talking about diet, but can you give some simple dietary suggestions for our listeners to help them to improve their skin, or maybe some rules to live by?
Yeah, absolutely. And so with my first book, Clean Skin from Within, I really dive into this because what I found is there are certain foods that are trigger foods for skin. Not that they're bad foods. I mean, I'm not really into like good or bad foods per se, but it's like what are the foods that trigger people that have skin issues? And so the number one is sugar. I mean, it's such a big trigger. And does that mean that people can never eat sugar? It really depends. Like me personally, I really just don't do well with eating sugar. But what happens is it's a big trigger for inflammatory skin issues. It's a big trigger for acne because of the changes in insulin causing changes in androgen excess and sebum production. And then also with premature aging, with the glycation issues that come from increased blood sugar. So sugar's a big one. And then another big one would be dairy. But I have 10 different ones that I talk about in my book. We don't need to go into all those. And they're probably a lot of the same ones that you talk about. But I also don't want to focus on the things not to eat. I like to spend more time talking about what to eat because there definitely are triggers. And for at least for a period of time, it's good to take those out to calm down the inflammation in the body, to help improve the gut issues that might be going on in the body. But really, we want to look at anti-inflammatory foods, right? And things that are like omega-3 rich fatty acids, antioxidant rich foods, getting plenty of fiber in your diet. Those are all really important things to help. And then, of course, there are certain nutrients that are sometimes deficient in people: B vitamins, zinc, iron, and some for some people. So these can be with these deficiencies, it can create skin issues. So getting nutrient dense foods.
So I'd like to ask you about a few food groups in particular that may be a little controversial and would love to hear your thoughts. First one, red wine. We've been taught for a long time that a glass of red wine a day is really good for you because of the resveratrol and all of that. More recently, some physicians and healthcare practitioners are saying, well, maybe actually no alcohol is better than even a glass of wine. What are your thoughts on that and the health of the skin?
I actually have a lot of thoughts on this. So my father was a winemaker. So I grew up in the wine industry. He made Pinot Noir and was one of the top winemakers in the world. And he actually died from liver failure. So he actually ended up drinking too much of his own wine. And so I actually stopped drinking completely a few years ago. And as I've done that, I've realized more and more, and I think this has been coming out about how we've been a little misled by the alcohol industry, by the wine industry. And I have like an insider view on the wine industry and kind of the shady side of it. It's very romantic looking on the outside, but it's quite shady on the inside. But the good thing about wine is the resveratrol, like you said, but the alcohol, the sugar, none of that is good for our skin, and it's not good for our health. And the research does now show there's no amount of alcohol that's good for our health, and there's so many downsides to alcohol, including the impact it has on our skin. So I'm not a fan of red wine and any alcohol at all. I do think resveratrol is great, but I think that you can get it in a supplement.
Yeah, yeah. How about fermented foods? Fermented foods, great for the microbiome. If you've listened to this podcast, you know that overall I'm a fan of fermented foods. But there's some people who get histamine reactions, and that can be profound for some people. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, histamine is an interesting one because histamine containing foods are a lot of really healthy foods that can actually create histamine issues for certain people. With fermented foods, I think generally They're, kimchi, sauerkraut, those are generally good. When there are some people that have some significant gut dysbiosis or certain types of imbalances with the gut microbiome that can be worsened by these fermented foods, people can usually tell. If you have some of these fermented veggies and you feel horrible, you feel worse, you feel more inflamed, it's not a good one to have. Just because other people it's working for other people doesn't mean that it's going to work for you. It's so individual. It's actually why I went back into private practice after selling the spa doctor, is that I was realizing that as much as I can write them in my books and do my podcasts and all of that, there is this individual approach with people. There's not a one size fits all diet. It just doesn't exist.
Okay, final one, because you did mention dairy and we talked about probiotics. Yogurt, thumbs up or thumbs down from a naturopathic doc as far as your skin? Thumbs up?
Coconut yogurt.
Oh, how about not dairy-free yogurt,
So
dairy-based yogurt?
yeah, dairy-based yogurt, it depends. I mean, again, this is one of those individual things. Some people do well with dairy, but I find a lot of people with skin issues have a problem with dairy. And so people will oftentimes say to me, well, what about goat yogurt or sheep yogurt, or what about the, it's dairy is dairy. So whether it's whether it's cow, whether it's sheep, whether it's goat, it's still dairy product. So some people do better with yogurt than like milk or ice cream. But in general, when someone is coming in to see me, initially, I'm just going to have them take all dairy out of their diet. Let's wait for 2 weeks and then gradually introduce one form at a time and just see how their body does. And there are also tests that people can do to look at dairy and see if that's an issue.
Switching gears, are there any supplements that you recommend that are specifically good for the skin?
There are lots of supplements that I recommend for the skin. And
general supplement, we're not talking somebody's got a deficiency, but let's just say, you don't have access to a naturopathic doc. You're listening to this podcast. You're saying, wow, I love what she's saying. I'm going to, stop drinking alcohol. I'm going to, start eating some more fermented foods as long as it doesn't cause me to feel crummy afterwards. What are some general supplements that pretty much everybody should consider taking for their skin?
Yeah, I mean, when we go back to looking at the root causes and things that, like the foods and things like that that help the skin, we look at things that are like anti-inflammatory. So like fish oil, or, getting those omega-3 fatty acids. Antioxidants. So resveratrol or quercetin or astaxanthin is really good, specifically for skin, especially if someone tends to sunburn easily or have hyperpigmentation, those sorts of things. I really like astaxanthin for that. So antioxidants and omega-3s, and then also collagen boosting supplements. And collagen peptides are one way, but there are also a lot of nutrients that can help support collagen, like vitamin C. And, I think that it depends on the person's diet and how good that is, their gut health. Some people are going to need more supplements than others, especially getting started, and especially if they have gut issues.
Do you recommend a lot of your patients then take a collagen peptides?
I do, especially if someone has, in the more mature skin type, right? They're in over 40 and they're looking at like, what can I do to delay the signs of aging, especially if they're saying, oh, I've got premature aging. I mean, because collagen doesn't just help our skin and hair and nails. It's not just about how we look, but it also helps our gut, our joints. And I mean, I just find that so many people benefit from it.
Yeah, and I totally agree. I mean, it's actually, we have our Youn Beauty supplemental collagen, and that has become our number one selling product, period. It's actually outsold any of our individual skincare products even. And I think because people use it, and it's not like you take one scoop of it and, oh my gosh, look at my skin, it feels so much better. But you stay on it for a while and people notice changes even more than just in their skin. Like you said, people like their hair feels thicker, their nails get stronger, their bones are feeling stronger. And I feel that people get hooked on it because they do feel so much better with it and they see those changes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's one of my favorite supplements personally to take. So I 100% agree. And it's interesting. A lot of people are looking for that magic bullet, right? That magic pill, that magic cream that's going to do it all. And to a certain extent, there actually are things that can move the dial more than others. And I'm a kind of an impatient person, so I do like to see results fast. So that's why I'm in Natural Beauty Reset. I have a 1 week program. It's not like I don't want people to wait an entire month to start seeing a difference. I want people to see a difference within a week. And I think in some of my patients, like even within a few days, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm already feeling better. I like to see that. That's why I see my patients every 3 weeks is like, if you're not seeing a significant improvement within 3 weeks, we need to reevaluate, because while it's not like the magic bullet that's going to in that moment, change it, we still don't want to have to wait a year to see a difference.
Now you are one of the. We'll switch gears. Let's get into skincare, because I know a lot of people are here wanting to hear our thoughts and your thoughts specifically about skincare. You are one of the country's foremost experts and really pushing for a clean skincare movement. You have educated people. I mean, your books are fantastic. Clean Skin from Within, I think, is one of the best books about clean skincare and clean living to get beautiful skin that has probably ever been written. I give it my highest recommendation. But what is the difference between clean skincare and not clean skincare? And does that actual term clean skin or clean beauty mean anything to you?
Yeah, skincare is such an interesting industry, and I've been in this industry for 10 years, and I've seen a lot of change, which is actually we're moving in a positive direction overall. But there's still not a lot of regulation in the US. The FDA just doesn't regulate this very well, so it's up to manufacturers to decide what clean means. So there's no real standard, or there's nobody that's going to come after a company if they're saying clean. Now, if a company says all natural, they can't really say that, because you'd really have to go out and grab some like dirt and twigs and put that on your face, and that would be all natural. And nobody's doing that. So, or, a DIY skincare, which I do have recipes in my book, that would be all natural. But things that come in a bottle, they're transformed in a lab to be the consistence they are. So, but there still can be clean, which means free of toxic ingredients.
Okay. And are there any specific toxic ingredients that people should watch out for that are common in the products that they may be using?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the number one is fragrance. Fragrance is in so many different skincare products and personal care products, home products. A lot of things we use have fragrance in them. And on the label, it's just listed as one ingredient, but it's actually a combination of ingredients. And many of those can be endocrine disrupting chemicals. Endocrine disrupting chemicals are a group of chemicals known to have hormone disrupting effects in the body. And so diethyl phthalate is one of the ingredients used in fragrance to help the scent last longer. And DEP is one of these endocrine disrupting chemicals. And I've been studying endocrine disrupting chemicals, specializing in environmental medicine for 25 years. And it's been interesting to see more and more research coming out about these group of chemicals, and more of these being developed and in things like skincare products. And while we don't have control over everything in our environment, we do have control over our skincare products. We have control over what we put on our faces. And so it's a great place to start reducing the exposures to things like endocrine disrupting chemicals. And with fragrance, there are great alternatives like organic essential oils.
Mhm. But I find my feeling in talking with dermatologists is that even though essential oils are more natural and you may not worry as much about endocrine disruption with them, and you know what you're going to get with them, unlike fragrance where it could be their own proprietary mix of substances that they don't have to share with you, people do get skin. I think one of the main issues with fragrance is the irritation of the skin that some people get from it. But that essential oils too, I know a lot of dermatologists will tell me that they have had patients who have reactions to essential oils just because of the irritation part of that.
Yeah, a lot of people do have sensitive skin. And I'm one of those people that I've always had sensitive skin. And so some people with sensitive skin they can react to anything, including essential oils, even if they're organic, unfortunately. So in that case, if somebody is sensitive to essential oils, then you can find fragrance free, essential oil free products, scent free.
So, what are some products that you recommend somebody who is in their 30s, 40s, and 50s? They're trying to slow down the aging of their skin, and they're looking at products and saying, geez, I mean, this product says it's better than Botox. This one is a retinol. This one is, a peptide or whatever. Are there any specific ingredients or products that you recommend that people look at to slow down the aging process and give them healthier, more beautiful skin?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are some really key ingredients. When I'm creating skincare products, now I sold the Spa Doctor company, but I still help them with creating products. My feeling is that every ingredient in the product should have a purpose. And so, I see a lot of these skincare companies as like contain peptides or contains this one ingredient, but like, okay, but what else is in there? And there are a lot of things that you can put in there together, but you also don't want to dilute the powerful ingredients too. It's like you can put all the things in there, but then that means there's such a small amount that it's actually not going to make a difference. So, I mean, there actually now is more science, there's more research. I would look for products that, so I have some clinical backing, some clinical research behind them, because I think that really shows, are people seeing a difference in that? I also think that in addition to certain powerhouse ingredients, and a lot of it's like what's going to help the lipid barrier, that protective barrier of the skin. I think there's some really nice plant-based oils rather than things like dimethicone. I also find that antioxidants are really great, and you take them internally, but having them on the skin, there's a lot of great research on that. Peptides, I think, are great. But also looking at overall like the pH of the products and making sure that they support the skin microbiome.
So, what are your thoughts on probiotics and skincare? You mentioned the skin microbiome.
Yeah, and a lot of the skin microbiome and the research comes from the inside out. Our gut microbiome, that gut skin connection is so important. But what we put on our skin is also important. But probiotics topically on skin are not as great as the probiotics that we can take internally for gut health, because part of it is that we don't want live bacteria in our skincare products. In fact, the FDA doesn't even allow that. So if you think about probiotics, most of them we want them to be alive. Now there are some products that are starting to be developed that they're able to stabilize them, but it's kind of early in the research with that. And I think that this is exciting. Hopefully more and more comes out about this, of like, how can we stabilize the probiotics so we can use them topically? But what we do know is really good, a few other things, is prebiotics, which are still stable and they can help support the skin microbiome, and also the pH of the products. So mild acidity is known to help support the beneficial bacteria and the microorganisms on the skin.
So, you started helping your patients with their skin when you were a young gal in your 20s. Now that it's 20 some years later, how do you recommend women change their skincare as they get older? Should they be using the same skincare products that they did in their 20s? And if not, what should they consider changing?
That's such a good question. I mean, it wasn't until I was in my 40s that I actually cared at all about skincare. Like when I hit 40 is when I was like, wait, I should probably be doing something topically for my skin. Because prior to that, it was always just like, am I going to react to this or not? Because I have very such sensitive skin. So I was just looking for the cleanest skincare I could find, but I wasn't as concerned. But when I started to look at the research on what actually skincare products can do, and like the pH of the products, the skin microbiome, and the topical use of products. I thought, wow, I've been really missing out. So if I could go back in time to my 20s, I absolutely would have started doing some of these things that I do now back then. And that is using, I mean, I don't think it's too early to start using some of these antioxidant rich, peptide rich, products for the skin. And then also, I don't think it's too late. My mom is 84, and she uses the Spot Doctor skincare products too. She's one of our biggest fans, right? So it's never too late also.
So what are you, if you could tell us, what is your morning and your evening skincare routine? And I need to say that my mom is like your mom. She's using all of my Youn beauty products, and she is going to be turning 80 very shortly, and does not look like that. And I'll tell you, the Spa Doctor products, I have used them. That was one of the inspirations, I would say, but for starting my own skincare line, Youn Beauty. So I definitely give it my highest recommendation. But what do you do in the morning and what do you do in the evening as your skincare routine?
Yeah. And even though I sold the Spa Doctor, that's still the products that I use. And I can't go a day without them. I go camping, I go travel. I cannot go a day without using my products. And I've tried other products, and I can't use anything else. And I am 51, and I feel like my skin is doing pretty well for my age. I don't do any procedures. I don't do any of the things, although Tony, I did tell you last night I had a dream that I was going in for some sort of procedure. So I don't know, maybe that's in my future.
Oh, I thought when you told me earlier that you actually did reveal you had something done or something. I didn't know it was just a dream.
It was a dream. It was like in the middle of the night. I woke up and I'm like, I was going in for some sort of facelift or something.
Oh, it'll become reality, but maybe not a facelift, but we'll see.
But
okay, in the morning, what do you use on your skin? If you can name the actual products, I think that'd be helpful for our listeners.
Every morning I use the 4-step system, the Spa Doctor. So it's a gentle cleanser. It's an oil-based cleanser, so it doesn't strip the skin. And I really love that it's hydrating, but also still it cleanses the skin really well. Then I use an antioxidant serum, step 2. And then step 3 is our moisturizer. And then step 4 is our plant-based oil blend. So that's the 4-step system that I use. And then we don't make a sunscreen, but I do recommend, I usually use a mineral SPF, like a tinted SPF. So that way I don't have to use a foundation or anything, because it's already got that tint to it. Kind of works as a foundation, and then go about with my, my makeup and all of that.
Yeah, that sounds great. All right. At night, you're getting ready for bed. What do you do to your skin?
Yeah, I use that same 4-step skincare system. And I also will we have an eye serum, we have a night cream. And so oftentimes I'll use those as well.
Okay, cool. And do you have any thoughts? I know we joke about getting a facelift, and you don't need a facelift. I mean, you look great, but have you had any thoughts as far as non-invasive treatments that you're thinking of getting, or that you have had done that you've liked as a naturopathic doc that you would like to share?
Yeah, I mean, I've done PRP facials. I've done some stem cells. And I mean, I think those are great. I don't do them on a regular basis. I do recommend them for my patients, especially patients that have acne scarring or are looking to reverse some of the signs of aging. That's typically what, personally, I do have some hyperpigmentation areas that are kind of these stubborn spots. So I'm going to go in and get some laser done for that. So, I mean, I think that there are some really great procedures now. I grew up on an organic farm. I am that naturopathic doctor that just loves to be out in nature. And I really do, try and do the least invasive possible. I'm the simple person.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and your products speak for themselves. I know that it's a separate company now, but you still are the founder of it. And I really want to let my audience know that your books are fantastic. I would really encourage you, if you found this discussion interesting, if you enjoyed my book, Younger for Life, then really pick up her book, Clean Skin from Within. That too, I think that and your products were inspirations for me to go in some of the directions that I have gone. And really, I think I would change the name from Clean Skin from Within to the Clean Beauty Bible. That may be a better name for it, but hey, that's me. But check out Dr. Trevor Cates' books, Clean Skin from Within and The Natural Beauty Reset. She's got the Spa Doctor Natural Skincare and Supplement line. How else can people find out more about you?
Yeah, well, if people are looking for someone to work with one-on-one, am accepting patients. drtrevorcates.com is my personal professional website. And also people can find me on Instagram, on YouTube, Dr. Trevor Cates, or the Spa Doctor.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. This was a lot of fun. A lot of great information.
Thank you.
Well, I'm Dr. Anthony Youn. This is the Dr. Youn Show. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, if you could leave a rating or review on iTunes or Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, it definitely helps me spread the word. And as usual, every week we'll give a quick shout to somebody who does. And we'll leave it at always remembering to eat real food, use clean skincare, and auto-juvenate before you operate.